February 21st, 2006. Kent, England. A cold and quiet Tuesday night. Most people were asleep, but behind the walls of a heavily fortified cash depot in Tonbridge, a robbery was already underway. Not a smash and grab, not desperate criminals with a lucky escape plan. This was something far more dangerous. A military-style operation, planned for months, executed with terrifying precision. Armed men disguised as police officers kidnapped a Securitas depot manager, held his wife and young son hostage, then forced him to unlock one of the most secure cash facilities in the United Kingdom. Inside the depot, terrified workers were held at gunpoint. Cash cages were emptied. Millions disappeared into waiting vehicles. By dawn, nearly £53 million had vanished, the largest cash robbery in British history, and the gang behind it believed they had committed the perfect crime. But what they didn't realize was that they had just triggered one of the biggest police investigations the UK had ever seen. An investigation involving over 1 billion fingerprint checks, tens of thousands of phone records, hidden surveillance, and a hunt stretching from the streets of Kent all the way to Morocco. This is the story of the Securitas Heist. Welcome to the Nothing to See Here channel. Let's get into the video. The Securitas depot in Tonbridge wasn't just another warehouse. It was one of the most important cash distribution centers in Britain. Every day, millions of pounds passed through the facility. Cash destined for banks, businesses, ATMs, all stored inside heavily secured cages. The building was designed like a fortress. Security barriers, controlled access points, CCTV cameras everywhere, armed response procedures. To rob this place seemed impossible, but someone on the inside knew otherwise. And somewhere, a gang was already watching and waiting for the perfect opportunity, learning routines, studying weaknesses, tracking employees. Among them, a man named Emir Hysenaj, an insider, someone who understood exactly how the depot operated. He knew the security procedures, he knew the schedules, and most importantly, he knew the one weakness no security system could ever fully protect against: human fear. On the evening of February 21st, depot manager Colin Dixon finished work and began driving home. It should have been a routine procedure like any other day, but suddenly, flashing blue lights appeared behind him as he was driving along. What looked like an unmarked police car signaled him to stop. Dixon pulled over. Moments later, everything changed. What he thought were police officers turned out to be armed criminals. Masked men dragged him from his car and forced him into another vehicle. At the same time, another team moved toward his family home. His wife and young son were taken hostage. The message was simple: cooperate or your family dies. For Dixon, there was no choice. Late that night, the gang arrived at the Securitas depot. Colin Dixon was forced to grant them entry. The robbers wore black clothing and masks. Some carried firearms, others carried plastic restraints. The moment they entered, they took complete control. Workers inside the depot were rounded up. Terrified staff were forced onto the floor at gunpoint. Some were locked inside empty cash cages. Others were tied up and threatened. But this wasn't chaotic. It wasn't reckless. Everything was well organized, disciplined, precise. The gang moved quickly through the building, loading huge containers of cash into waiting vehicles outside. Millions upon millions of pounds. Banknotes stacked in industrial quantities. So much money, they physically couldn't carry it all. Even after stuffing vans full of cash, millions had to be left behind. The scale of the robbery was almost unbelievable. It was daring and unprecedented. By the early hours of the morning, the robbers were gone, and behind them they left stunned employees, terrified hostages, and one of the largest crime scenes in British history. The final amount stolen? Nearly £53 million. Britain had never seen anything like it. News exploded across the country. Headlines called it the crime of the century. The public was stunned. How could criminals steal that much money from one of the most secure facilities in the country and simply disappear? But behind the scenes, Kent police had already begun preparing for war. The investigation that followed became the largest in Kent police history, and detectives knew one thing immediately. This robbery was too sophisticated to solve quickly. The gang had planned carefully. They used burner phones, disguises, multiple vehicles, false identities, and military-style coordination. But investigators began building the case piece by piece. Phone data was analyzed. Hours and hours of CCTV footage reviewed. Financial records tracked. Forensic teams searched every inch of the depot. Then came one of the largest forensic operations ever attempted in Britain. Over 1 billion fingerprint comparisons were carried out. 40,000 lines of phone data were examined. More than 14,000 pieces of evidence were eventually presented in court. And slowly, the cracks began to appear. One discovery shocked investigators. The gang had used realistic prosthetic disguises during parts of the operation. Fake facial features. Disguises designed to help criminals avoid identification. A woman who helped create the prosthetics later became a key witness. In exchange for immunity and a new identity, she revealed details about the gang's preparation. Suddenly, detectives understood the truth. This wasn't just a robbery. It was a professionally orchestrated criminal conspiracy. At the center of the investigation was a notorious figure, Lee Murray, a former MM, a fighter with connections to organized crime. Police believed Murray was a mastermind behind the heist. Dangerous, intelligent, and already known to authorities. Born in Plumstead, southeast London, he was reputed as a fearsome fighter. He was childhood friends with Paul Allen. The pair used to deal crack cocaine and heroin on the Thamesmead estate. He was the victim of an attack outside the Funky Buddha nightclub in Mayfair. It is said to have stemmed from a turf war. Murray was repeatedly stabbed in the chest and heart and was lucky to survive after emergency surgery. Not able to make it as a cage fighter and his drug operation in decline, he remembered an offer he previously declined from career criminal Lee Russia and decided to go ahead with the Securitas robbery. But before detectives could close in, Murray vanished. He fled to Morocco, where his father was born, alongside Allen. And from there he fought extradition to the UK. For investigators, it was a nightmare scenario. The alleged mastermind of Britain's biggest robbery had escaped beyond British jurisdiction. But even overseas, the walls were beginning to close in. One by one, members of the gang were arrested. Properties were raided. Large amounts of cash recovered. Weapons, vehicles, evidence linking suspects to the robbery. At trial, the truth eventually emerged. The operation involved inside information, months of planning, kidnappings, armed threats, and extreme violence. Though detailed planning had gone into the 66-minute raid, they were forced to leave behind $154 million because their 7.5-ton lorry was too small. The robbers had made the basic error of using their own vehicles, which allowed detectives to trace them. Several gang members received lengthy prison sentences. The inside man, Emir Hysenaj, was convicted. Paul Allen was extradited from Morocco and jailed. Others faced justice for their roles in the conspiracy. And in Morocco, Lee Murray was imprisoned for the robbery after authorities there prosecuted him directly. But despite all the arrests, one enormous mystery remained unsolved. Where was the money? Police traced a number of vehicles involved in the robbery, including a parcel force van thought to have been used in the abduction of Dixon and his family. The van was found abandoned at the Hook and Hatchet pub in the village of Hucking, near Maidstone. A Volvo S60 and a red Vauxhall Vectra, also thought to have been used and made to look like unmarked police cars in the abductions, were found near Leeds Castle. Colin Dixon's Nissan Almera was also found in the car park of the Cockhorse pub in Detling. Kent police then recovered a white Ford Transit van from the car park of the Ashford International Hotel. The van was taken away for forensic examination, and it was found with $1.3 million inside, as well as guns, balaclavas, and body armor. Metal cages and packaging material that may have been used to transport the money were recovered in a field near Detling. Later that month, forensic teams, accompanied by armed police officers, raided a house in South Barrow, and Kent police challenged two men who fled in a blue BMW 3 Series coupe in Marine Parade in Tankerton, near Whitstable. The white 7.5-ton Renault Midland lorry allegedly used to transport. The stolen money was then recovered by police at an undisclosed location. An Elderton farm in the Staplehurst area was raided. In March 2006, John Fowler, a car dealer and owner of Elderton Farm, was charged with conspiracy to rob Securitas and 3 charges of kidnapping, while Stuart Royal was charged with conspiracy. An industrial depot in Welling was then raided, where an unknown amount of cash was discovered and a further arrest was made. Further arrests were made and a total of £19.7 million in cash was recovered. Lee Murray was the last to be detained after 4 men were arrested at a shopping center in the Swansea district of Robbery in a joint operation with Moroccan police. The Securitas Heist was more than just a robbery. It was a masterclass in criminal planning, a story of fear, greed, violence, and obsession. But it was also a story about the victims, the terrified staff held at gunpoint, the kidnapped family forced into a nightmare, and the detectives who spent years hunting those responsible. The gang thought they had planned the perfect crime, and for a while it almost worked. But no matter how sophisticated the operation, it's almost impossible to leave no clues behind. A fingerprint, A phone call. Any mistake could be just enough to get you caught. Yet even now, millions are still missing, and authorities still believe there might be others who escaped prosecution. Stuart Royal, Roger Coutts, Lee Rocha, and Jetmir Buckpapa were all jailed for life for their part in the Securitas Depot robbery following a trial in 2007. As of 2026, Lee Rocha and Stuart Royal are the only two gang members in jail and are both up for parole. Dad of two, Rocha, 52, a former kickboxer from Kent, has served the minimum 15 years of a life sentence. Rocha was a roofer and part-time driver from Tonbridge, Wales. When his home was searched, a plan of the Securitas Depot bearing his fingerprints was found, together with a video of a reconnaissance mission to the home of depot manager Colin Dixon, who was kidnapped before the raid. Police found $8.6 million in cash in a lock-up garage rented by Rocha's cousin, and police found a gun and ammunition in his shed. Jetmir Buckpapa was extradited after serving his sentence. The Kosovan Albanian became involved in the plot through his friendship with Lee Rocha. His job in the heist was to organize a reconnaissance of the home of depot manager Colin Dixon. He lived in Tonbridge and worked as a doorman while making extra money selling cannabis. He had met co-offender Hysenaj in a coffee shop. Fellow Albanian Emir Hysenaj, the inside man who filmed the layout of the depot, was jailed for 20 years and has also been returned to his native country. Roger Coutts, a garage owner from Kent, was released after serving 15 years. The married dad of one from Bexley Heath ran the North Fleet Transit Center van garage near Gravesend. More than £9 million of the stolen money was recovered from a car park in Welling, which he rented, the largest amount of money recovered from the raid. For his part in the crime, Lee Murray was sentenced to 25 years in a Moroccan prison. 20 years later, as of 2026, the former cage fighter is making a bid for freedom at the United Nations. His childhood friend, Paul Allen, got 18 years after pleading guilty to the robbery. Allen pleaded guilty, but denied he was ever at the Tonbridge Depot on the day of the robbery or played any part in kidnapping the manager and his family. He was released after only 6 following a secret hearing in which a judge let him off. He was ordered to pay back £1.23 million of the £1.9 million criminal benefit he gained. He paid just £420, but in a closed court, a judge agreed that he should not have to pay any more. In 2019, Allen was paralyzed after he was shot in the neck while standing in his kitchen. Louis Ahern, 36, his brother Stuart, 46, and Daniel Kelly, 46, were found guilty of plotting to murder Allen with others and jailed for 99. When police swooped on his farm a few days after the Securitas robbery, some newspapers gave the impression John Fowler was the mastermind behind the raid. But Mr. Fowler said he had been duped by his old friend, Stuart Royal, who bought and sold cars from him and often borrowed his yard at Elderden Farm near Staplehurst to store vehicles. When confronted with the presence at Elderden Farm of a green Peugeot containing £30,000 from the Securitas robbery, Mr. Fowler blamed Royal and said he knew nothing about it. John Fowler was acquitted of all charges in connection with the robbery. Even after years of investigation, most of the stolen fortune was never recovered. By 2016, more than £32 million remained missing, gone, vanished into criminal networks, offshore accounts, or hidden caches somewhere in the world. Some believe the money was laundered overseas. Others think large amounts were buried, hidden away waiting for the heat to die down. To this day, detectives still receive tips about the robbery, and the investigation technically remains open. Because somewhere a fortune from Britain's biggest heist may still exist, hidden in silence for nearly 20 years. The legend of the Securitas Heist refuses to die, because somewhere out there, Britain's lost millions may still be waiting to be found. Subscribe to see more videos like this. Like and share, it goes a far way to help us grow. Leave a comment. We would love to hear your thoughts.